Hey guys, welcome back to Ace Attorney Trilogy. We are ready to get started then. Looks like. So, I think we are ready to start the second trial sequence of Chapter 3. Which I think is the last one of this chapter. January 8th, 9:46 a.m. Good morning, Mr. Wright. Good morning, Maggie. So, what do you think's going to happen today, sir? Yesterday's session didn't go so well and ended on a giant mystery. That's true. Hey, Scarlet. And we still haven't solved a single part of it yet. You okay, Nick? Huh? Oh, yeah, of course. I saw that little flash of doubt in your eyes. No, that wasn't doubt. That was, determination. Why don't I believe you? Yes, this is the third game in the series. And the third chapter of said game. It's nearly time, Maggie. You better get going to the defendant's seat. Roger, don't let me down, Mr. Wright. I'm counting on you. Hey, pal! Hey, Detective Gumshoe. Quit stressing Maggie out. She doesn't need that. How did you know she was stressed? I was watching through the doorway. Oh. Creep. You look like you lost the case already. Show a bit of confidence, will you, pal? Here, maybe this'll help. What is that? Huh? Have you taken up aromatherapy too? Not in a million years, pal. Don't tell me you don't remember this thing. Come to think of it, that doesn't look like one of those aromatherapy bottles. This is the small bottle that turned up in Trabian's kitchen a couple days ago. Oh yeah, we did give it to him to examine. Wow, look at all those little bottles. Oh, they're aromatherapy oils. He's got so many, they're overflowing onto the floor. Hey, wait a minute. There's one bottle that's different from all the others. Well, what do you know? And it doesn't have a label either. And it doesn't smell. We finally got the analysis results back from the lab. Not quite. That was... I think you missed that part of the chapter where she was working at the restaurant. That's the, that outfit's the uniform. So what is it? Is it the poison? Afraid not, pal. It's medication. Oh, so... Hey, Scarlet, you were right on the money. Medication? Yeah, for ears. Topical use only, apparently. Oh, yeah. His, yeah, we went over that at the trial. His ear medication was unaccounted for. For ears? You mean... Yeah, it's the medication Glenn Elg was using for his ruptured eardrum. Well, it was established that Jean is a bit of a klepto. What was Glenn Elg's ear medication doing in the kitchen? What about the unidentified fingerprints? Anything on that? Someone screwed up, so they only had time to analyze the contents of the bottle. Oh. Another hour and they might have gotten something on the prints, but... That's gonna weaken its impact as a piece of evidence. Okay, pal, this is it. Make sure your defense is impregnable today, got it? Oh, boy. Today's trial. I'm gonna expose that guy for what he's done, or my name isn't Phoenix Wright. Court is now in session for the trial of Maggie Bird. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Hello again, Cyclops. Ready and waiting as always, Your Honor. Very good. Then we'll get underway at once. Yesterday, we heard the testimony of Mr. Victor Kudo. He claims to have witnessed the defendant putting the powder into the victim's coffee. However, the witness's testimony was plagued with a number of problems. Hey, Coolio. The mark on the rim of the cup shows that the victim drank from it with his right hand. But according to the old man's testimony, he picked it up with his left hand. Thank you, Mr. Godet. Furthermore, according to the witness's account, the victim was listening to the radio with an earpiece in his left ear. Yet the victim's left eardrum was ruptured, which made him effectively deaf in that ear. It's amazing how many contradictions a single case can have, huh, Nick? He doesn't look fazed. Huh. Allow me to enlighten you, Your Honor. The world, you see, keeps turning, and we must turn with it. You've lost me already, Mr. Godet. Speaking of, yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of Leisure Suit Phoenix, you got that jazz music going on again. Don't let the mysteries of yesterday mystify you today. Only losers think like that. You've got to change with the times. That's one of my rules. Are you implying that you've resolved these contradictions? You know the answers to these riddles? The old guy wasn't just throwing seeds in here. He was throwing us off the scent. And today I'll prove it. Very well. Let the first witness take the stand. Oh no, not you. And you are? Oh, bonjour everyone! I am Jean Armstrong, the owner and head chef of Très Bien Restaurant. Enchanté! Yeah, no one else knows what to make of him either. Forgive me for asking, witness, but are you a woman? Oh la la, monsieur! As you can see, I am le pert and perky gentleman, no? On the day of the incident, you were in Très Bien's kitchen. Isn't that right? Oui, monsieur! Everything feels right. Wow, he's totally unfazed. Doesn't anything intimidate that guy? Very well, your testimony, please, witness. Please tell the court what happened that day at Très Bien. Oui, volontiers. When it all happened, there were just 2 customers in my restaurant. I remember I was experimenting with some new art decors that day. Like having a large mirror between the tables, for example. Mirror? Oui, perhaps that is what the old man was looking at. Le cup, le earpiece, and the glasses. It would have seen everything in reverse, no? Mirror? Oui, un grand mirror. Le most enormous mirror. That does throw a wrench in our case. And suddenly the mystery disappears. Like I said, the world keeps turning, so roll with it. That would explain the coffee cup and the earpiece conundrum. The mirror would have made everything appear back to front. The heck, it's way too early in the morning for this to be happening to me. Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Okay, here we go. What happens? There were 2 customers in my restaurant. And who were the two customers exactly? Of course, the young man who died. And the other not-so-young man. You're referring to yesterday's witness, I presume. What about the other man Maggie says she saw at the table? Something tells me Mr. Armstrong isn't planning to disclose his existence. We need some hard evidence first before we can bring him up, don't we? Guess I'll just have to try a different approach for the time being. You were experimenting with Art Deco? How come I never heard about that before today? You are not familiar with the language of interior design, monsieur? Please stay on topic. Now, why didn't you tell the court about this before? But I did, just a few moments ago. Excuse me, Mr. Armstrong. This deco you mentioned, are you referring to some sort of decature? No, Art Deco. It's a style of design, Your Honor. He's talking about interior design. Walls, ceilings, carpets, that kind of thing. Ah, yes, of course. That deco. I was trying to achieve a more effeminate look for my restaurant. I was planning the most bold remodeling of le decor. Large mirror between the tables. That's gonna be important, isn't it? How big of a mirror are we talking about here? Well, something about 4 meters wide and, about 2 meters high. Let's see, if 1 meter is about 1 yard. Holy glass in a frame, that's huge! I was intending to install it on the ceiling eventually. The ceiling? Was there a mirror on the ceiling? I don't remember. No, but I decided not to go through with it in the end. What should I do? Should I ask him more about the mirror or not? Doesn't look like it'll hurt us. If you really had such a large mirror in the restaurant, someone would have noticed it. But there's nothing about a mirror in Mr. Kudo or Maggie Bird's testimonies. But... You didn't ask, Trite. You have only yourself to blame for such sloppy work. What? A mirror was delivered to Trebien the day before the incident. Really? As Mr. Armstrong testified, he was carrying out some design changes. And as it turned out, he didn't actually use the mirror in the end. This just doesn't add up. Even if the mirror was delivered to Trebien, it doesn't prove that it was in the restaurant on the day of the crime. Huh. If you want to doubt someone, Trite, look in the mirror. I'm sure the person looking back at you will be dubious enough. So the witness yesterday had seen the victim reflected in a mirror. Oui, perhaps that is what the old man was looking at. Normally, I'd expect people to know the difference between a reflection and a real object. Normally? How does normality come into this? That's lame, Trite, even for you. Huh? Are you trying to say that if something isn't normal, it isn't possible? Is that it? Where does that leave the porky-headed lawyer and the top-knot chick over there? And the ungodly cool guy with the mask over here. Well, Trite? Not the hair. I do not have a top knot. You kinda do. Mr. Goat, it's correct. A lack of normality is no basis for discounting an argument. Bien. Logic has won le day. These glasses, we've seen everything in reverse. Everything? He would have seen everything in reverse. Oui. Hey, Nick. We should take a second to think about what old Seedy said in his testimony. How did he phrase it again? The boy was wearing the earpiece on the same side as the green lens of his specs. No question, you can lock me up if I'm wrong. It was his left ear, without a doubt. Okay, left ear. He used the same hand to pick up the cup. His left hand. If he saw everything he described reflected in a mirror, then everything he said he saw on the left was actually on the right, huh? Right. And that clears up all the problems with its testimony, I guess. Or does it? Huh. It's kind of hard to believe everything's the fall of a mirror, but... Do you think old CD saw everything through a reflection? If he did, it would explain all the contradictions in his testimony. But that just makes the situation worse for Maggie. There's gotta be something in that old man's testimony. We just gotta dig deeper. Everything would have been in reverse. They did give us a pretty big hint back there, though. Left ear... He was wore it over his left eye. But then, if that's true, he would have been wearing it. He would have been wearing the DBZ Scouter over his right eye, wouldn't he? The coffee cup, the earpiece, and the HMD. Let's think back over Mr. Kudo's testimony for a second, shall we? Wearing the earpiece, same size as the green lens of his specs. It's his left ear. So, to summarize, we were told both the HMD and the earpiece were on the victim's left side. Now, if Mr. Kudo saw all that as a reflection in a mirror, it means both the HMD and the earpiece were actually on the victim's right side. Exactamente! You see, monsieur, now that you think about it, it's not so hard, no? Unfortunately, that's where we run into a monumental contradiction with the facts. If Mr. Kudo really did see everything in a mirror, why is it the HMD is now on the wrong side of his head? Order! Order! Mr. Wright is correct. If the witness genuinely observed the victim reflected in a mirror, then we would expect the victim's eyepiece to have been over his right eye. How bitter. Trite, you should have a taste of this bitterness. It'll calm you down in no time. Are you gonna throw your coffee? Don't throw your coffee at me again. Are we talking about your coffee or something completely different? Yeah. You don't understand the way the witness thinks. How he thinks? You remember this, I presume. I broke the vase. Sorry, apology Mr. Kudo's sworn testimony. Exactly. The old man has one very grievous habit, other than throwing seeds. The more of an impression something makes, the more muddled his mind makes it. And what's the most striking thing about Mr. Alec? Indeed it does, Scarlet. Clearly it's the victim's eyepiece. And that's my point. The old man strikes again. Mr. Eleg's HMD made a big impression on the old man. I saw the earpiece and those newfangled spectacles he was wearing. Oh yes, they were both on his left ear. Do you hear? His left ear. Huh. Well, Trite. That's the worst but best impression of Kudo ever. Wow, I really thought he was old CD for a minute there. Goat, it's good. Oh, I should have read it in that voice then. Enough! I must agree that yesterday's witness was irresponsibly rash in much of his testimony. Bad luck, Nick. Looks like the boil of a contradiction you found is just a rash. A mirror cannot be beaten by a handful of seeds, nor can it lie. So, what exactly was the old man looking at? Fill us in, Mr. Armstrong. Go on, tell the court. We're all ears. Oui, I can explain. Please, if you look at le plans of le restaurant... Alors, is everyone sitting comfortably? Le mirror, it was in the middle of the restaurant, dividing the two halves. There is only one seat from which you could have seen an image of the victim. That was the seat at the table next to the victims. That was where the old man was sitting. That is a weird place to put a mirror, though, right in the middle of that walkway there. After the terrible incident occurred, I moved the mirror so it was not in the way. But naturally, I did not touch anything else. I know. My thoughts exactly. I see no problems with the explanation we've just heard. From the table next to the victims, Mr. Kudo could have seen the victim in the mirror. What a naughty little coquette I am, confusing all the men like this. Don't worry about it. We can keep up, except for the guy breaking out in a cold sweat over there again. I hate that guy. You said you didn't touch anything apart from the mirror. Are you quite sure about that? Volunteers, of course! Very well, Mr. Wright. Your cross-examination, if you please. Fighting the two halves. So, run this by me again. The mirror was here, correct? Oui. Oui? Really? Because I know if I were you, I wouldn't have put a mirror there. It would be in the way. Yes, even Phoenix points this out. Objection. Look who's talking, trite. Huh? You're obstructing my view, among other things. But this is my seat in the courtroom. Trebien's charm is that it gives you the impression that you're its only customer. Temporarily placing a mirror in that spot would hardly be in the way. Unlike you, trite. I tell you, monsieur, la mirror was there in the middle of the restaurant. Only one seat. And where would that be? Ooh la la, look how you lean toward me. I always attract the younger boys. Maybe I should keep you in suspense a little longer. Mr. Armstrong, tell the court what you know at once. I attract the older ones too, you know, handsome. Shall I tease you too? I'm already seeing a very hot someone, so I'm afraid you'll be waiting for a long time. I'll bet she has mocha cream skin and cappuccino perfume. Bien, I would tell you, there was only one seat from which you could have seen. That was the seat at the table next to the victims. That was where the old man was sitting. After the terrible incident occurred, Oops. I was, skipped ahead a little too much. So, why can you only see the victim from that particular seat? Monsieur, it is obvious, no? If you look at the plans, you will understand. The victim would have been reflected in the mirror like so. If you are sitting at the table next to him, you would have seen everything, no? So that's the seat old Seedy was sitting in on that day, when the poisoning happened. The old man was sitting at the table next to the victim? Why does that seem kind of odd? Move the mirror so it wasn't in the way. Did you move the mirror while Mr. Kudo was off calling the police? Oui, exactamente. I carried it out of the restaurant then. You moved a huge mirror like that all by yourself? Well, I mean... Yeah, I mean, Phoenix did point out earlier that Maggie never said anything about a mirror. Of course, that was when Godot basically just came back with the old "you didn't ask" thing. What can I say? I know how to pick things up, handsome. Godot actually laughed at something. Well, given the witness's physique, I suppose it's possible. Did you move anything else from the crime scene, Mr. Armstrong? I look like the obliging type, no? But naturally, I did not touch anything else. Are you sure about that? I touched nothing except the mirror. Mr. Wright, is there something the witness has said that doesn't match the crime scene? Yeah, there is. I just can't put my finger on what exactly. Suffering from a case of heartburn, Trite? Oh, I have just that thing for that. An oil with golden myrrh and frankincense. Add a few drops to your coffee and voila, enjoy. Focus, Phoenix. Breathe. I need to ignore those two and just find some evidence. It is pretty strange though, isn't it? I mean, nobody mentioned anything about a really large mirror. You'd think someone would have, but Maggie didn't, and neither did old Seedy. Then the only logical explanation is that there was no mirror in Trebian that day. Now I've just got to prove it, somehow. Yeah. The seat next to the victims. Now, what did we see? Floor plan. So that means... Wait, where's that floor plan again? So wait, this was... Okay, so... Okay, so this is where the victim was sitting. That means Kudo must have been sitting here, right? But then there's one thing that doesn't add up. He said he knocked a vase over. This piece of evidence contradicts with the testimony we've heard, Your Honor. The crime photo? Yes. This photo clearly shows something that theoretically should not exist. What on earth do you mean by that, Mr. Wright? Should not exist. Sounds like you're describing yourself, Trite. Ouch. Goad it with the burn. Now then, if the defense would please clarify its statement. What is the something that should not exist in this photo? I think it's pretty obvious that this is what should not be in the picture. The vase? What possible connection does that have with this witness's testimony? Have you forgotten it already? Your Honor, I'm telling you that there should have been no vase on this table. Because it very clearly contradicts with this piece of evidence. There is one thing that was clearly demonstrated by yesterday's testimony. Mr. Kudo broke the vase that was on the table where he was sitting. And yet, as the court can see, there is an unbroken vase on the table next to the victim. Why? Because Mr. Kudo was not, in fact, sitting at the table next to the victim at all. Oh, what do you want? Don't be an idiot, Trite. That's impossible. That seat's the only one Kudo could have seen the victim's reflection from. Exactly. There's only one conclusion we can draw from this contradiction. There was no mirror in Très Bien that day. Your testimony, Mr. Armstrong's an elaborate lie. Mon Dieu! Don't try to confuse the court, Trite. Obviously, the witness cleaned up the vase, while the police were taking their time getting to the crime scene. Unfortunately, Mr. Godet, that doesn't quite work for me. Mr. Armstrong already testified to the contrary in his own words. I didn't touch anything else except the mirror. And chug that coffee down. Well, witness, what do you have to say for yourself? I was right. There was no mirror in the restaurant that day. In light of this revelation, we can return back to the original problem. Why did the victim have an earpiece in an ear in which he couldn't hear? Huh. You only get one shot in life. There's no turning back. If you want to claim that the mirror wasn't there, Trite, then this problem is all yours. How do you explain what the old man saw? If I can answer this, we'll be that much closer to the truth. I can feel it. Is Godet part of the Ginyu Force? If he is, then so is Glenn. What with that scouter? Are you gonna be okay? Can you really solve this contradiction, Nick? There's more than just the one contradiction, Maya. What do you mean? Remember what Maggie told us. There was another man at the victim's table. And there is a sample CD on the victim's table. It all flies in the face of Mr. Kudo's testimony. And I think I know the reason why nothing in this case is adding up. Well, Mr. Wright, let's hear your answer. Yes, Your Honor. The reason behind all the contradiction in Mr. Kudo's testimony is simple. He made a mistake. The ear doctor made a mistake. The victim was a phony. This case is riddled with contradictions. Yeah, there's one very simple answer that clears them all up. And what is that? The incident Mr. Kudo witnessed and the incident the victim experienced were two completely different events. What? Yes, the victim that Mr. Kudo saw wasn't Mr. Glenn Alec at all. It was an imposter, A phony pretending to be Mr. Elg. Obviously, unlike the victim, there was nothing wrong with the imposter's left eardrum. That's how he ended up wearing the earpiece in his left ear by mistake. That delayed reaction again with the spit take. Order in the court. Settle down or I'll clear the courtroom. Quiet, Gramps. Why don't you clear out of here, huh? What did you say? Trite, are you saying that what Mr. Kudo saw was a setup? Yes. Someone pretended to be Glenn Elg and acted out the whole coffee poisoning. All for the express purpose of creating a witness out of Mr. Victor Kudo. Get real, Trite. Why would anyone want to do that? Isn't it obvious? The thing Mr. Kudo was most insistent about in his testimony was... The serving girl brought him a Javicino, but she put something in it. That's the serving girl, right over there in the defendant's chair. I remember her well. It's so hard to believe, but... There was one and only one reason to show Mr. Kudo this fake poisoning. To show Maggie Bird in the act of poisoning the coffee. Are you insinuating that the waitress in the old man's story was a fake as well? It's true there were no other customers in the restaurant at the time, but... It's also true that the chef was there. He would have noticed what was happening. Yes, but... That's right. Well, witness? If your restaurant really was the scene of such theatrics, you would have known about it, correct? Ooh la la, this is most difficult for me. No, it's quite simple. All you have to do is testify. You are under oath, after all. Was there in fact a phony at Trebian that day? The defense demands that Mr. Armstrong tell the whole truth about what happened. The defense's request for additional testimony is accepted. You'll accurately explain in detail the events in the restaurant that day. Well, welcome to this series, Scarlett. This happens with almost every witness. No matter how many times they're caught lying, they'll still be allowed to testify as many times as they want. We... Le victim, Monsieur Eric, he came to my restaurant alone. I remember the old man arrived not long after him. There were no other customers. And when he got word he won the lottery, Mon Elig became very excited. It was approximately 5 minutes later that the poisoning incident occurred. No, there was no time for a phony to do the acting. Just so we're clear, there was no mirror in the restaurant after all. Je vous demande pardon. Forgive me, Your Honor. I lied because I wanted this mess to be cleared up quickly. What you have just done is commit perjury, Mr. Armstrong. I'll decide how to punish you later. Thank you, Judge. At least he's shown a little bit of, competence. Oui. For now, we'll hear a cross-examination. Mr. Wright, if you please. He took that perjury charge a bit too well. But I'm guessing he'll be in more serious trouble after this cross-examination. That or he's more afraid of what's going to happen if he tells the truth. came to the restaurant alone. Was he alone at his table as well? Mon oui, I saw him from the kitchen. Yet the defendant, Ms. Bird, remembers it differently. She swears there was another man at the victim's table. Huh. Unfortunately for you, Trite, yesterday's witness also testified that the victim was alone. You know, seeing you squirm like that reminds me of a certain coffee's bittersweet bite. What kind of coffee's he even drinking? It's not coffee, it's love. It's love that's bittersweet. Hearing Maya say that makes her seem wise all of a sudden. I remember the old man arrived not long after him. By old man, you mean Victor Kudo, correct? Oui, he comes often for my special coffee. I drank your coffee once, Mr. Armstrong. It's special, I'll give you that. It's worth a sip just for the experience. Oh, you make me so happy, monsieur! You're most welcome, anytime! I said it was worth one sip, and nothing more. So old Mr. Kudo arrived at the restaurant around the same time as the victim. Maybe I should ask about his arrival in more detail. So you're saying not much time elapsed between when the victim and Mr. Kudo arrived? Oui, that is correct. That still leaves the possibility that something happened in that gap of time. And by your recollection, how much time would you say elapsed? Let me see. Approximately 2 minutes, I would say. 2 minutes? That's all? That's not much time to kill him and then switch places with him. It seems unlikely that anything untoward could have happened in such a short time. Rats, I knew I shouldn't have pursued this line of questioning. There were no other customers. How many times do you need to ask the same thing, Trite? You'd never catch me drinking the same blend twice. Huh? Really? You're trying to establish the presence of a phony victim in the restaurant. But you're just wasting your time. You can't grind birdseed to make coffee if you catch my drift. But there's a hole in this testimony somewhere, I'm sure of it. I got word he won the lottery. Became very excited. Did you see him? No, I was in the kitchen, but I heard him. I remember him shouting, "Yes, $500,000! Presumably the defendant heard that too then, correct? Maggie? She looked like a poor little frightened dove. And what about Mr. Kudo? That old man choked on some bird seeds that got stuck in his throat. It seems we now have yet another incident on our hands. Approximately 5 minutes later. And what were you doing at that point? Without any customers, you must have had time to kill. I'm a multi-talented woman, monsieur. Sorry, what do you mean? There is the renowned chef Jean Armstrong, and the tragic poet Clarice Armstrong. What? Clarice? What? Oui, I was writing a poem, an angry tale of a chef in $500,000 of debt. Cooking for a man who won $500,000 on the lottery. It is called Pourquoi. It means why. Perhaps I should recite it for the court. Please don't. Thank you. Thank you, Phoenix. I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. No time for a phony to do acting. You mean you contacted the police as soon as the incident occurred? I asked the old man to call from the payphone. By your own argument, right? Did we establish... Was there no phone in the restaurant to call from? The purpose of this phony victim's performance was so the old man would see it. In other words, once the incident occurred, this opportunity would completely disappear. Indeed. Bien. It seems the shadow of doubt has been lifted, n'est-ce pas? I guess Mr. Armstrong is connected to this case, huh? Absolutely. Someone was impersonating Mr. Elg, and I refuse to believe he was oblivious. He was there the whole time, after all. But if you're right, wouldn't Maggie have noticed too? She fell unconscious when the incident occurred, remember? Oh, you mean that's when the phony staged his act? We'll know for sure once I find a hole in his testimony. He came alone. By old man, you mean Victor Kudo, correct? Oui. Okay, yeah, we already established this. What time was it? Out of curiosity, about what time was it when Mr. Kudo arrived? Oh no, I cannot remember, monsieur. I believe we were told by a witness yesterday. Crime was reported at 2:25 p.m. by a kind of scary old man, sir. 2:25. Does that perhaps jog your memory, witness? The incident happened about 20 minutes after he'd arrived. So the victim must have arrived between 2 p.m. and 2:10 p.m., no? Between 2 and 2:10. Just after 2, huh? Thank you for your help in jogging my memory, monsieur. You're a wonderful... I can't sit here all the time and do nothing now, can I? The time of day will be added to the witness's testimony. Oui, monsieur judge. Everything I do it for you. Merci bien. That's French, isn't it? Glad at least one person's in a good mood. He's even humming a song to himself. After him, just after 2. Are you absolutely sure about the time? When I think really hard, I'm sure it was just after 2, oui. It is the time I stopped serving the lunch menu. Quite right. I always break for lunch when the restaurants are serving their specials. I've been known to wind up a case early just to make it on time. Ha ha ha. I guess you should never get between a hungry judge and his lunch. Oh, you look at that. It's almost lunchtime already. Uh-oh. Witness, get on with your testimony, please. Okay. Time of death was between 1:30 and 2:30. So that adds up. This lotto ticket. Experience the most thrilling 10 minutes of your life every Monday at 1:30 p.m. But if he didn't arrive until after 2, he wouldn't have heard that. He wouldn't have heard that announcement on the radio then. I'm afraid I finally got you, Mr. Armstrong. What? What do you mean? At the time in question, the victim was listening to the radio with his earpiece. The show he was listening to was Millionaire Radio. Each week, they announced the winning numbers of the $500,000 lottery ticket. Oui, that must be the show Monsieur Elig was listening to. I can't see any problem with this testimony, Mr. Wright. I wonder. You say the victim arrived at your restaurant after 2 p.m., correct? Oui, I'm sure of it. I remember it perfectly now. I know it was that time because I had just finished serving the lunch menu. Yes, as we established. Get to the point, Trite, if you have one. That show is broadcast live at 1:30 p.m. And it claims to be the most thrilling 10 minutes of your life. It's on the air at 1:30? Now, supposedly, the victim made some noise when it was announced that he had won. Oh, he knows where this is going. And yet, I don't believe his cry of joy could have occurred after 2 p.m. Because the show had already finished more than 30 minutes earlier by that point in time. No! This victim we've been told about has done nothing but the impossible. Listening to the radio with a ruptured eardrum, catching a show that was already over. There's only one conclusion you can draw from these facts. This victim was an imposter, acting out the poisoning 30 minutes after the real murder. Yes, there were 2 Glen Elligs in Très Bien that day. The real Glen Ellig, now dead, having been poisoned by the real killer, and the phony Glen Ellig acting out the events for Mr. Kudo to witness. It certainly seems that way. I mean, if that wasn't the case, how could you explain the time discrepancy? Quite a performance, Trite. You were almost on a roll. Almost. But sadly, you lack the rock-hard foundation of rhythm to build your song. What is this? Music Theory 101? Let's recap. According to your imaginative theory, it's now just after 2 p.m. The phony Elg is performing a play for the benefit of Mr. Kudo. How do you explain, then, where the real Glen Elg is? I don't believe I have to spell this out for the court, however, at that time, the real Glen Elg was already dead. That's certainly the obvious conclusion. Thank you, Trite. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. What? Now, I presume you can prove this theory of yours? Can you explain where the missing corpse went to? The missing corpse? According to the old man's testimony, there was only one other customer there. If that customer was the phony Glen Elg, then where did the killer hide the body of the real victim? The prosecution has a valid point, Mr. Wright. If your theory is to stand up to examination by the court, you must provide us with proof by answering the prosecution's question. Where did the killer hide the body? Yes, Your Honor. No conjecture, Trite. Let's hear some facts for once. Show the court a piece of evidence that proves where the body was hidden. Uh-oh. Evidence? What's with the intense pressure in here all of a sudden? I thought I had him with that contradiction. But he's turned it all around and backed me into a corner instead. Well, Mr. Wright, the court will now hear the defense's theory and evidence. First, where was the body of the real Mr. L concealed? Inside the restaurant. It would have been too dangerous to take the body outside. Obviously, the body must have been hidden somewhere inside Très Bien. Interesting. But where could a body have been hidden inside a restaurant? I know, Scarlet. I hope you weren't. I hope you weren't expecting this series to be like completely 100% accurate, legally accurate. Perhaps you'd care to show the court on these plans, Mr. Wright? The body would be in the sauce. No, I don't think it was anything that grim. Yes, Your Honor. The exact location where the body was concealed inside Très Bien is... They just stashed it in the kitchen. The body was hidden here. I see. Nice supposition. But the real question is, can you back it up? Where's the evidence that proves the body was hidden in that location? We found his medicine there. Mr. Armstrong, do you recognize this bottle? No, no, no! I've never seen that ugly bottle before in my life! I only use the very best bottles, monsieur. The highest quality, only for me. Where was that bottle found, Mr. Wright? Interestingly enough, Your Honor, it was found in the kitchen of Très Bien. Quoi? But I only ever use these bottles for my aromatherapy oils. But this bottle doesn't contain aromatherapy oil, Mr. Armstrong. No, it contains a medication. What kind of medication? I'm sure everyone remembers, don't they? That Mr. Ellig visited an ontolaryng... God, that is a tongue twister of a word. Otolaryngological clinic and was given medication that day. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? You can't be serious. The defense had the contents of the bottle analyzed, and I have the lab results here. The contents of the bottle match the prescription that was given to Mr. Ellig. Glenn Ellig's murderer hid the body in the restaurant kitchen, at which time this bottle fell out of the victim's pocket. Mr. Armstrong, when the incident occurred, didn't you say you were in the kitchen? Out of the throat into the ear and some nose reference. Mon Dieu! Yes, you know what I'm about to say. It was you who hid the victim's body. You did a fine job pretending to defend my client, Maggie Bird. However, you were setting her up to take the fall. You were setting her up to take the fall behind the poor girl's back. No! Order! This is an extraordinary development. Witness, did you murder Mr. Glenn Ellig? No, but he was most certainly an accomplice. Never! I would not do such a horrible thing! Oh, jeez. What? Wait, Goated? Mr. Goated? Oh, jeez. You are gonna have such a caffeine hangover after this. The bitterness. Every time I get lied to, I always down a mug of coffee. That's one of my rules. Do you have the slightest idea how many cups you've had by now? Right? That's a shitty rule. Then I'd like to do the same to the person who lied to me. I like to take them down with my empty cup. Listen up, chef. How about a brand new flavor in your ear, my age-deficient friend? Je vous demande pardon, please, you must hear me out! It's a trap! Listen to me! Por favor. Isn't por favor Spanish? Yo hablo español, Mr. Armstrong. And por favor is Spanish, yes. My thoughts exactly. I'm only gonna ask you once. Did you do it? No, no, no! Absolutely no! Let's hear it. You've got one shot, right, Gramps? Witness, the court will permit you the chance to make one final statement. Yeah, see that? Yeah, see what I mean, Scarlet? If you lie under oath again, Mr. Goda's coffee mug awaits you. As does my gavel. Oui, it is clear. What do they always say in the movies? I got a bad feeling about this. Very well, begin your final testimony, Mr. Armstrong. Not now, kitty. It is true. I hid the body in the kitchen. A man forced me to do it. I had no choice. I had to go along with him because there was a reason why I could not refuse. But I did not kill him. I swear it. You must believe me. You were forced? By who? I cannot say, or I would be erased. Let's try a different question, then. When Mr. Ellick died, was he really the only person at his table? There was... now it's gonna come out. There was another man. I knew it. Maggie was telling the truth. You may cross-examine the witness now, Mr. Wright. There's just one more thing I need to do. I gotta break this guy and get him to tell us the name of the real killer. The body in the kitchen. Did you carry the body by yourself? Oui, I carried him. And I carried Maggie, too. Maggie, too? When she saw the victim collapse, she fainted. I could not leave her there. But why did you hide the bodies? A man forced me to do it. I had no choice. What man? Who was he? No, no, I cannot say. I fear for my life. He's really scared. You'll just have to put the words in his mouth, Nick. Yeah, you're right. If he won't tell me, I'll tell him. But why would you go along with this man? Of course, we already found out the reason. And what reason would that be, Mr. Armstrong? You know, monsieur. Yes? Surely you cannot expect a young maiden to talk about such an embarrassment. A maiden? You're a bit old to get away with that. And a bit too male. I can't finish the cross-examination without establishing his reason. So I'll just have to prove it with evidence. So you're claiming that all you did was hide the bodies, is that correct? Oui, that's right. If we're to believe you, Mr. Armstrong, you must tell the court everything. You must make clear the identity of the man who ordered you to do this. He's already confessed this much, he might as well stop dancing around the real issue. Yeah, but he really doesn't want to tell us who the killer is. Then sock it to him, Nick. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Huh. That should have been the last... That should have been the last one. There should have... From what I'm reading, there should have been an achievement for pressing every single one of John's statements during his testimony. But I think we know who he's talking about. I guess so. I guess so, Scarlet. I didn't think I did, though. Let's end this issue of Let's end this dance of Ring Around the Rosie, Mr. Armstrong. This is the man you've been referring to. Oh! Who is that? I feel like I've seen him somewhere before. Yeah, that would be the guy who somehow managed to make you think he was me. Oh, I don't know, maybe a month ago in this very courtroom. Oh, hi, Noble. How... Okay, it wasn't that long ago. Okay, again, since you and Coolio have the same color on your names in the chat, I keep mixing the two of you up. I apologize again for that. This man is Furio Tigre. He's the manager of a loan office called Tender Lender. Although I shouldn't, because Coolio has the little mod symbol next to his name. There's no point trying to hide the truth anymore, Mr. Armstrong. I know you couldn't go against Mr. Tigre, at least not while he had this on you. He owes him $500,000. A $500,000 loan from a black market loan shark. And you had no way of paying it back, did you? That's why you were forced to do anything this man told you. Oui, it is as you say. Mr. Armstrong. Le Tiger, he told me he was going to use my restaurant for a business rendezvous. On the day in question, he was meeting the victim to demand that he repay his loan. I don't know why it happened like that. I just did what he told me to do. I had no choice. I carried the body and the unconscious Maggie out of the dining area and into the kitchen. After that, I just tried to forget what I had seen. I think we can now safely say that the man who forced your hand was Mr. Furio Tigre. I do have one further question for you, Mr. Armstrong. The poison and the lottery ticket that were found in the defendant's apron pocket, was that your doing as well? No, I know nothing about that. Making it look like it was Maggie who had done it, I was not. It is despicable. Mr. Godin, you will summon this Furio Tigre as a witness. I doubt that can be arranged today, so we'll adjourn for now. Proceedings will continue tomorrow. 30 minutes. What? 30 minutes or it's free? The trial will go on. I'll see to it myself. I need half an hour to get that guy on the stand. Not a minute more. How the? Don't sit back and relax yet, Trite. No one knows if that chef is really telling the truth or not. This trial could still go either way. Very well. Your request is granted. We will resume once Mr. Tigre is ready to take the stand. Until then, court is adjourned for a 30-minute recess. Alright, nice. So, I'll take a very quick break, and next time we'll take care of, I think will be the final part of this chapter. So I'll see you in just a few minutes.